So welcome to this presentation. We have Francesca, one of our students, Francesca Lazzaroni, one of our coaches actually, because you are all coaches in training, but coaches on the way to pursue an ICF accredited certification, a certification with a program accredited by the ICF. So within our activities in the coach training offered by Sunlight Academy, there is also this activity required and proposed to read and work on a book that has spoken to you, Francesca, and you have chosen Multiple Intelligences by Howard Gardner. So we're very curious and interested to listen to your presentation and to know more about your the way you relate with this book and the connection that you have seen with the coaching profession.
Thank you, Christina, for your introduction, and welcome to everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'll ask you a couple of questions during the session, so feel free to share with me your impression as long as we go on. Among the bibliography that Christina shared with us, I chose Multiple Intelligences by Howard Gardner because I've always been interested in this book. Actually, they just provided me the occasion to start and read it. Howard Gardner is a psychologist in the field of development psychology, that is how and why humans grow. I'm not an expert in the area, but as far as I got, it's something that is related not only to childhood, that was at the very beginning, but right now also to adult, and let's say the whole life cycle of people and how they grow, and for example, the education. So this book is not about coaching directly. It's more about providing a theory about intelligences and the education step. What I tried to do is, if you let me, a broad comparison. When you enter a forest and you are just walking around and relaxes, you have a certain approach to the forest. While if you enter a forest while looking, I don't know, for mushroom, you have a completely different kind of approach. So I actually read this book a couple of times. The first time, not the whole book, but at least some part of it. The first time because I was curious, because I'm always been interested in the education and the idea of intelligences. But I read it again with the idea of coaching and looking for something that resonates with me and the coaching process I'm going through. And that's what I would like to share with you today. So some of the highlights I had, some of the connection I made. Of course, they are not the only one. And I've listened to other people in the same condition as me reading this book, and they found other topics that interested them most. So please feel free to share if you have something that you would like to add. I would like to share first with you my first impression of the book. The first impression was about someone that wanted to share his theory, and it was completely fair in comparison to other theories. There is a whole chapter that speaks about questioning on the model, because the theory was made 20 years ago, in the 60s. So the book was published later. So meanwhile, the theory was already being shared in the public. So there were a lot of questioning about this kind of theory. And he answered in a very polite and open question. He didn't say ever that his theory was better than the other. He just wanted to share his ideas. And he did it in a very open way with a very broad language. And he was very inclusive in everything, both in sharing the theory and in analyzing it. He include, of course, children, but also adults and different kind of adults from different cultures, and also people that had some accident maybe and had some part of their brain limited. So he really tried to be as much as open and inclusive as possible. The main idea behind this book was related to education. And so he said that everybody has his own potential and the education should go with that direction. This is one of the main insights I got. But the very first impression was related to how he presented his theory, so the style of communication. And in particular, with the words that he used. So every word he used was in a positive attitude, in a positive sense of going. And that's something I find during this path that I'm going towards for coaching. We have been told more than once that the single word we pick up when we ask a question to our client, when we make an agreement, when we partnership with our client is fundamental. So I've listened to some lessons or seminars about the why question, or how to choose the what, how, which. So how we formulate the words are important. And that's something, again, I found in this book. So I would like to start with a definition. That is the definition of intelligence provided by Howard Gardner. That is this one, a potential to process information that can be activated to solve problems or create products that are of value in one or more cultural or community settings. And this, again, is something that resonated to me, because when I think, again, it's a completely different topic, but when we think of coaching and the definition that ICF provided is partnering with the clients in a thought-provoking and creative process. And again, I can see the relation with this activation is something that you have to think about and stop and create and inspire someone. And that are of value. Value is another word that pick up my interest, because we often ask our customer, what is the value in this goal that you are trying to achieve, or what is the value in being in this kind of emotion? So again, the idea of potential and working and activating it in order to provide value that is for the community or for the person is something that I liked. So to go on, I would like to start speaking of the intelligences. Howard Gardner found in this book 7 kind of different intelligences, but later on he made this model more broad. So you can find 7, 8, 9 different kind of intelligences. I chose not to present you all of them, but you can think of some of them, because they are, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with them. Our educational environment focuses on people and on the skills related to mathematical and logical kind of intelligence, or the linguistic kind of intelligence. I chose to pick up 2 different intelligences that are the interpersonal and the intrapersonal. Before going on and explaining you maybe some examples of what he meant with this, I would like to ask you if you're willing to share what this kind of intelligences can evoke in you. What do you think this can be, and how it does resonate with you and the idea of coaching? If anyone is willing to share.
May I?
Sure.
Yes. I really like the way that you picked up intrapersonal intelligence and interpersonal. And intrapersonal intelligence for me is how much do I know myself, my emotion, and how can I manage and work with them. And intrapersonal is intelligence is the way that I communicate with the others, the way that I manage to speak, to connect, and to work with them. The first one, interpersonal, is with me, and then intrapersonal how I will connect what I have and to work with the others. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Is there anyone else that would like to add anything?
And I would say what these interpersonal and intrapersonal definitions look like for you as coaches. How do they speak to you? Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, so I think Fran's question is what's the difference between intrapersonal and interpersonal to start with. So I think I agree with the first speaker that intrapersonal is within you, and interpersonal is your relationship with other person. And for this, if I just to extend to the question that you asked, Christina, in terms of coaching, I'm looking at intrapersonal, your state of mind, your presence, and all others is important to your capacity to partner with the other one. And when we talk about partnership, then the interpersonal comes in, where you are now going to competencies like how you listen to what the other person is saying. The connection between you and the client will be interpersonal, but it will be influenced also by your own awareness of yourself, which is intrapersonal. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Thanks, both of you. I agree. I came up with a similar conclusion, and I thought about it by looking back to the core competencies of ICF. And I started with the intrapersonal because for me it's the first step. When we have to prepare for a coaching session, we have to take a little time to be aligned with what's going to be next, so to prepare ourselves. And we have seen during this academy that it's important for us our well-being as well. So that's important that the coach has his own balance and his own equilibrium. And I find this in embodying a coaching mindset, because when you think of the coaching mindset, you have to develop an ongoing reflective practice and think back how you can improve yourself and use your self-awareness and your self-intuition for the benefit of the client. And these two things, I think, can come up if you are good and you are balanced within yourself. And so your intrapersonal intelligence is activated. So you're using that kind of intelligence. On the other part, the interpersonal intelligence is, of course, as you have said, how you relate with your client. And the example I found in the book was very interesting because it was about two persons that were from different countries and they couldn't speak the same language, so they couldn't talk. And the person that was supposed to have the very strong interpersonal intelligence could manage to arrive to reach the other person and to conquer her trust without speaking. So it was not only the voice, not the words, but a whole attitude. And that's something that's great. And so I think that we can find this again in when we have to create the trust and we have to maintain presence, when we demonstrate curiosity towards our client. For example, I don't know, if they feel some emotion, they show you some kind of emotion, how you manage them. So being active in your partnership with the customer. And I guess that this comes also with the next kind of intelligence that I wanted to pick up. Again, there are 2 of them, and I both recollected them with 1 competencies about the active listening part. These 2 intelligences are the musical one, as you can see on the right side of the screen, the violin, and the kinesthetic one, that is about the movement. Think of people with strong kinesthetic intelligence are those that are very good in sportive activities. And I guess that both of these are something that we can train during our coaching session. For example, the musicality includes also the way someone is speaking. So if they speak softener, or if they are really engaged in what they're saying, if they need some pauses, some stop, just to let them think and reflect, or if they need a upper rhythm. Okay, and this is something that maybe we don't use consciously, but is something that I think comes up when you have to when you are trying to active listening. And that's the same for the movement. We know that communication is on different levels. That is the verbal level, that paraverbal, then non-verbal. Okay, again, if you see someone that is, I don't know, making his body shaking because he cannot stay still while speaking, or they make some expression in their face because they really feel what's going on inside them. Okay, all these aspects are related to the interpersonal intelligence we have seen before. And again, it's something that I see in coaching as the active listening. And the last one I wanted to share with you is about the logical mathematical. So again, is there anyone that is willing to share how they see the logical mathematical intelligence that you can think of is the pretty common you are used to with the coaching? So how do you see it related with coaching?
This is quite a question. We can give participants a little bit time to think about that while I check.
Yeah, it took me quite a time to manage something that I really felt about this topic. But yeah, I think I got to.
So maybe the idea probably can come from, let's put it in this way, if I can support the reflection. What is this image that you have chosen? I'm directing this question to all the participants. What is this image evoking in you?
If I may.
Sure.
Yeah, like actually I don't know the name in English, but like it's the Setsune Aura should be. So if you can help me, because I don't know.
Golden section, I think it's.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's probably the patterns that can and like that everything is math is everywhere when we speak, whatever we see. So it's like it's at the basis of everything, but it's also a sort of beautiful and perfect patterns that keeps going and creates like what a session can also be. So maybe
that's a great interpretation. It's slightly different from the one I got, but I will think more about your point because I love mathematics. So I like your idea of finding beautiness in this.
It's amazing. Sorry to interrupt you, Francesca. It's
Sure.
amazing how we can learn from all the contribution, because what I want to reinforce also for the other participants is the fact that when coaches present here something, it's like an excuse to engage, like you are doing, Francesca, with conversation with others. So it's amazing what we can learn from the contribution of others and make new connections or reinforce our connections.
Yeah, and I like the idea of beauty behind mathematics, so I will keep it in me. Thanks, Francesca, for sharing. My idea was a little more practical, actually. Sorry about that. From the very beginning that I started this path with Sunlight Academy, I thought, I was speaking with Christina, and I thought when she was explaining me the process and the program of coaching, that I saw a sort of recurring path that was going a sort of spiralizing. And actually, the more I think about it, the more it's more like fractals. If you know what those are, you know, those images that if you go in one detail, you can find again the same pattern. Because if I think of a coaching session, a single one, I can see that we start defining a goal, and then we go around that goal, looking at it from very different perspectives. So the idea is to interact with our client so that he can see different point of view from the objective, from the value, from his beliefs, for his thinking, for his emotions. And so you go around and around, narrowing it down to the goal of the single session. And at the same time, you do the same process for the whole program. So you can have another goal that is the goal of the whole program, and you go around with the single session objectives going towards that direction. And again, you explore from different point of view, but there is a structure behind it. So a single session is not just chatting or talking with your client, but it's more about following the process. So even if our idea is to establish a partnership with the customer, we are clear in our mind that we are supposed to go through all the points of the process, all the steps of the process. And we have to be aware of the timing and how the client is moving in this way. And so we do have a structure in our mind. And that's how I recognized the logical mathematical intelligence during the coaching, because that's how I think our logical mathematical intelligence can support us during our coaching. So these are some examples of the intelligences, those that most struck on me, and I wanted to share with you. If I have to think of the main takeaway I got from this book, just to let you know, the book goes on after presenting the model and the different intelligences and some examples. It provided some details on the experimentation that they made with a different group of people. The whole objective was to create an educational model that was individual-centric. So everything was related to each one, because you can learn one thing as individual with different kind of approaches. So if you are more musical, intelligence-oriented, you can learn mathematics as well, but maybe understanding it from another perspective. And that was the whole idea. So it was more, let's say, trying to broadening our classical teaching material by adding some other point of view. And even if I found the experiment pretty interesting, I didn't see so much relation with the coaching. But what I found out that was interesting for me was this is another quotation for the book. That was, we believe that the great majority of people are capable of using their competencies in a skillful way. And this for me is another strong message, because it's something that I again find in our coaching path, and believing that people and our client, in the case, are capable and are skillful and have different kind of intelligences and can be different from us. So I would say that my key takeaway is this one: a strong reinforcement of the trust I have in my customer, my client, because this is another quotation. as human beings, we all have a repertoire of skills for solving different kind of problems. So it was so curious to me that such a different background, because psychology, and such different context, because it's education, and we are speaking about United States. I'm from Italy, so such huge world between us, and again the same idea that everybody, every human being, is capable and skillful and can solve problems. And so this is something I've always felt I had some constraints about, because I'm in life, I'm an advisor and I'm a teacher in some circumstances. So in both cases, I like to give my opinion, and that's something that I have to fight on while doing coaching. But having someone that is so different from me, telling me that my client is good and can solve his whole problem and has the strength to do that, is something that really helped me in trying to let go my idea of trying to lead the path for other people. And so I just would like to close with the last quotation that is in the very back of the book, that is an encouragement that I felt Gardner was referring to me, but I would like to share with you. Suspend the usual judgment of what constitutes intelligence, and let your thought run freely over the capabilities of humans. And I guess this is one of the main points I wanted to highlight in this book, and that's it. Thanks for listening.
And thank you so much, Francesca, for contributing with this presentation, with this amazing book, actually, because it has been a reference for me and for my work for many years, and I'm sure it can inspire a lot our work, our development as coaches, as professional coaches. So you gave us a lot of ideas and insights to think about. I always say that when you prepare these works, this presentation, less is more. So I'm very grateful that you focus on these three main aspects, and thank you so much for working at these presentation. Just the last question, when I usually have students to present their work, I usually ask, what was let's say, what did you gain by working over the months at this presentation?
Well, my first attempt to present the book was with myself, so it was not the one I showed you, Christina, and was about as I told you before, my first reading of the book was about enjoying it, because it's something that I wanted to read actually quite a time ago, and I never found the time and the willingness to do that. So the first time was just for myself. The second time, I just picked up the main chapter I've seen as potentially related to coaching, and I read them with coaching mindset. So I read them again with the competencies, ICF core competencies next to me, and I tried to see something that could resonate with me. So the second attempt was shown with you, Christina, and you suggest me to keep it simple because it was going a little too much going around. And actually, while trying to explaining to you and what really struck me, I found the main topics because they were clear in my mind. So I just cut off all the unnecessary things and tried to go on the few messages that I felt the most.
And so what was the gain? I mean, what did you gain by working at this presentation in this way? Because I've heard that, first of all, you have enjoyed reading the book, and then you have focused more on the coaching perspective. So what was your main benefit? What did you get?
Well, first of all, I think getting to the point of synthesis, that's one of the points I liked of the reworking I did. And the second point, again, is towards my client, because I think that after reading the book, I changed the approach I had during the session, because at the very first time I was trying to do coaching session as coach, my first thoughts when listening to the customer, to the client, were, okay, I would do this. If I were at your place, I would do this. And I was actually trying to force me not to saying that. So my idea was not focusing on making him think and creating him something engaging, but more on limiting myself. While now that I have, I think, interiorize, I don't know if that's the English word for that, but making it that I believe more in myself in this topic. I guess that it's not the first things that comes to my mind. I would do this. It's more about being more curious about what's in the client mind.
Amazing.
I think this is a game.
So you gained, like, if I understood or heard correctly, well, you worked more in synthesis, so that's also what you practice. Then it's kind of a purpose, instead of reading the book for, like the metaphor that you used at the beginning when you enter a forest, just to enter the forest. But if you search for mushroom, then it's different. Your journey is different. So you gave yourself a purpose in reading this book. And it impacted also, this work impacted also on the way you coach. How does it sound?
I think so.
Okay,
I think so.
Great. Amazing. So thank you for sharing, and we'll stop the recording now. We will continue our conversation in our class today. So thank you again.